Antony Cummins. Some of you may know Antony. He runs a YouTube channel that's used primarily to either promote his martial arts school or one of his many books. I've been wanting to make a video on Antony for a while now and decided that now would be a good time. Not so long ago I was invited to the group, a group that consists of Knight Errant, Metatron, Shadiversity, Medieval Review and Antony Cummins. Up to this point I wasn't really familiar with Antony's work. I had a pre-existing relationship with some of the other guys, and some of them I even looked up to as the reason why I got started on YouTube in the first place. I thought to myself, well, I don't know much about Antony, but let's check out his stuff. This is when I started to notice something was amiss. You see, Antony's comments section were unusually full of people calling him out for being full of shit. Now, this is the internet, so I took it all with a pinch of salt. People making nasty comments in comment sections is pretty common. But then I did a Google search of his name, and one of the first links I noticed was a forum where people were just calling this guy out for being a phony. This is when I started to think there is very rarely this much smoke without at least a little teensy bit of fire. I want to first say that my knowledge of Japanese martial arts is purely academic. I haven't practiced much practically, but I have done in the past. What I have had is a lot of conversation with well-respected and well-regarded Budo practitioners. Gentlemen who, back when I was looking to learn something authentic, taught me how best to recognise bullshit. Outside of that, I have trained for nearly 2 years in German longsword, having received tuition from Dave Rawlings, Keith Farrell and Axel Pettersson. I now run my own small study group and train once a week. I'm far from a master, but I have a decent understanding of the foundation of swordsmanship. I just wanted to make that apparent before we go any further. As I say, I already had questions regarding the authenticity of Cummins. So, the other night I decided to open a dialogue with him by asking him if he'd ever actually studied any Koryu. So a lot of my opinions on Antony will cite comments from that particular chat. Now I know Antony's probably rushing to go tell YouTube to take this video down, but be aware Antony, there's such a thing as the Streisand effect. If you try and hide something on the internet, it only comes back bigger and stronger than before. Anyway, let's get into my major problems with Antony. Basically, from what I can gather, a little while ago, Antony got sick of the way Japanese people were practicing Koryu. Because among other things, Antony believes that Japanese people aren't at all capable of violence. So they obviously can't develop proper martial arts practices. Now I know what you're thinking, that seems like a pretty general statement for a man in his position to be making. But don't worry, he very quickly deleted the comment. But not before I had the chance to screen capture them all and post them in the description below. I know I have nothing to hide. What about you, Antony? He also mentioned to me that for a short period of time he was affiliated with a group called the Bujinkai. I guess it didn't go very well because if you type Antony Cummins into the search bar on YouTube, the first result is Antony Cummins gets kicked out of the Bujinkai, a video that no longer exists. I'm guessing Antony's been doing some deleting again. Unfortunately for him, he can't get them all. So a little while ago, Antony got his hands on some scrolls and decided he was going to do his own thing. I'm not sure why this school gave Antony access to this information. I can only assume that it was for money or for notoriety. You see, Antony doesn't want to be part of the group. Antony wants to do it alone, in an environment where he can be the master. I don't know if he wants money, fame or respect, but he certainly doesn't want to do the hard work that it actually takes to learn any of this stuff. He'd much rather just make it up as he goes along and then tell everyone else that they're wrong. Come on Antony, you're a good looking guy, you've got some charisma. Why don't you find someone to teach you the basics at least? Despite claiming to know better than everyone in Japan, Antony has no real grounding of techniques, which you can see in pretty much every video he's ever made. Just look at him attempting to do something as basic as drawing the sword. He pulls it out, and to the side, right away from his body, probably fucking up his sire in the process, and leaving him completely open to attacks before bringing the sword around his head to attack. This is so wrong that it genuinely hurts to watch. One of Antony's main opinions on Koryu is that they don't practice in a practical enough environment, to which he might actually be right. I figured, having said this, in order to prove the effectiveness of his way, surely his videos would be full of a lot of sparring. But I couldn't find a single piece of sparring in his hour-long Notori Ryu video. In fact, I couldn't find it in any of his videos that I watched. If that's the main crux of his point, why is there none of it there? The only thing I notice when I watch his videos is how truly piss poor this man's swordsmanship really is. You see, you really shouldn't hunch like that when you're cutting with a sword. That posture makes it hard to engage your hips, making it nearly impossible to properly cut anything. But hey, Antony doesn't agree with the masters, he's a maverick. After all, he's the only master he needs to listen to. And besides, he knows swords can cut, they're sharp, like knives, and he cuts himself with knives easily. This is a genuine comparison he made. It's like talking to a fucking child. Oh yeah, there's no effort or skill in this. You see, they're just designed to cut. You can just touch a tatami mat with a katana and it corrodes. You fucking idiot. The man's a published author and he can't even spell. Yeah, Antony, tell us what happens when they approach. Tell me what happens when they approach in the middle of the night. Just goes to show you that you don't need to read Japanese, practice Japanese martial arts, or have a basic grasp on the English language to write a book about the samurai. So, aside from the guy's borderline racism, clear ignorance, and poor technique, what else could be wrong with him? Turns out he seems to have a bit of a thing for violence. This quote I've already shown you where the guy's bragging about his past indiscretions, like it means he knows something. Oh, so you nearly burst a guy's eye in McDonald's for calling you a girl. You big man, you. All of this should be enough to show what a fucking loony the guy is. But there's more! Old Antony seems to have a thing or two for beheadings. One of his books is loaded with these unnecessarily gory, horribly photoshopped pictures. Something tells me that this guy isn't quite right in the head.
Nearly. There we go. There's more.
But hey, that's just my opinion.
Beat it, everybody knows it did. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that's my Michael Jackson impression.
The pictures that are in here that aren't gory are pretty fucking hilarious too. Just look at the Photoshop skills on display here. It's like something from a Ninja Eugene book. This guy might be the real life Ninja Eugene. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm nothing like this loser. In short, Cummins would have people think that he's a maverick, trying to shake the system up and bring in better training practices. Or a historian trying to teach people the truth. The reality is that Antony Cummins is an untrained fantasist, a scroll translator with no language skills, and a man who seems to want to write a book on just about anything. Why? Because he knows better, of course. The guy doesn't have the most basic sword ability, and yet he spouts his knowledge like he's the only one who's seen the truth. And the only reason he probably even started doing that was because nobody gave a shit about him till then. Because he was completely irrelevant. If you follow this guy, then you need your head tested. So that's what I've got to say. My small attempt to eradicate some bullshit. Unfortunately, I obviously don't know what this will mean for my future of working with the Medieval Mythbusters. I had a blast working with those other guys and I would absolutely love to do it again. But I guess we'll have to see. Maybe I can just work with them individually on collaborations. All I know is that I wasn't going to keep making videos that call out medieval misconceptions and ignore the crap that this guy spouts. Peace out. Oh, it's all pre-arranged. Thank goodness. That makes their approach much less intimidating. I'm not sure about the real skill part though. You're right guys, Antony Cummins here, trying to tell you some more bullshit and sell you some of my books. Now I just want to talk about a guy called Steven from a channel called Good Karma. If you want to find out authentic stuff about Budo, about Koryu, he's one of the few people living and practicing in Japan that is documenting it. I firmly recommend checking out his channel. I'm cutting.